Hello, fellow citizens of Earth. Welcome to the new normal as we all coalesce around social distancing, underlying issues, hunkering down, celebrities doing videos from home, which I recognise this is in a sense, but I've resigned from celebrity long ago, abandoned fame a good while ago, fortunately just before the apocalypse hit. How are you feeling about your government and leadership at this time? In a sense, crisis and fear, don't they sort of make you want to really blindly believe in authority so that you don't have to think anymore? But don't you in the back of your mind think, I can't trust this authority? Already we were experiencing a time where authoritarian leaders were rising to prominence in Brazil, you could argue the UK, certainly the United States of America, and this is not a particular judgment on any type of politics. If you care about my opinions, then surely you must. Surely you must care about something. Then I'm not sure that I agree with centralised power or the deification of individuals or the rarefication of individuals or believing in the sort of the strong man idea anymore. What did you think when Boris Johnson sat there doing this sort of thing? You know, saying, if your friends call you and ask you to come out, you're going to have to really tell them to fuck off. Oh man, it's so weird, isn't it? And it's getting weirder, and it's weird whether you're in America, Australia, or in the United Kingdom. Let me tell you, airports are no fun under these circumstances. I travel back, thank God. I'm aware always, and I've been aware for a long time, that most things I experience are through a kind of lens of privilege, economic privilege, and I suppose if you have a different type of perspective, you could argue there are other forms of privilege. But let me tell you, there is something of a leveller occurring. No question that you are more vulnerable, more at risk if you are poor now. The homeless crisis in California, for example, is being deeply exacerbated. This is no time to be poor in the world. But surely a time of such radical reordering must present opportunity for lasting change, mustn't it? It's sort of, doesn't it help you to evaluate what's important? Aren't you thinking with, I'm not so worried about toilet roll, kitchen roll, that's what's worrying me more. Toilet roll, I've already investigated other ways of dealing with that matter. Kitchen roll though, kitchen roll's absolutely vital. Not to mention, of course, you know, that's the mundane end of the spectrum. How are we to be held up in our bubble of consumerism, our aquarium of objects insulating us from mortality? Then, at the other extreme, there is the vivid spectacle quite near where I happen to live. A young person, 21 years old, has died. And of course, I'm not suggesting that the disease becomes more severe when it's only affecting people with underlying issues. I suppose it just becomes a more of a terrifying and vivid lottery. You know, I suppose all of us now, who among us doesn't have parents or grandparents or people that have got underlying issues? You know, everyone does. We're all like, aren't we starting to recognise our interconnectivity? Aren't we starting to recognise how we transmit not only microbiological organisms, but also potentially positive energy? This is no time for vapid sentiment or ungrounded positivity, sentiment meaning unearned emotions. But those emotions we've earned, deep sorrow, deep pain, deep solidarity and sadness, they're going to help us. I feel like I've been kind of invited to confront a lot of things about my personal reality. Where I feel fortunate is that I've been doing that anyway, because as a person in recovery from drugs and alcohol, various forms of behavioural addiction, and a person that's been privileged enough to be born poor and then to live in a variety of different economic environments, I've been, and because of the old mental illness, I recognise the transience and inability of external circumstances to take care of me. So something as radical as this happening, whilst I feel sort of fear and uncertainty, I recognise, one, I'm very, very grateful for things I do have, and I'm somewhat experienced in fluctuating environments and recognising change and recognising impermanence. And one of the things I'm most curious about is what will the geological stratification mark across human consciousness look like after this has happened? We will gaze back into our past and see this is the moment that people realised, I don't want to go to that job anymore. This is the moment people realised, I don't want to spend all this time just staring at my phone, although I've got to be honest, my personal phone use must have bloody rocketed. I don't even want to see what the screen time is now. A lot of it, though, is listening to healing mantras, Rama Da Sa Sa Se So Hung, things like that. Or what's his name? I never get his name right, but it's something like Thich Nhat Hanh, him doing a meditation. I'll post it. I'll put it in the description. That meditation, calm and ease that he does. That's good stuff. I mean, if you want some practical advice, this is it, and it's coming from me. Right, the stuff that's actually happening, like on a global level, whether it's like US injecting trillions into the economy, or Australia shutting down borders, or the UK building massive hospitals, or everywhere building massive hospitals, or Spain not dealing with the crisis well, according to some commentators, or Italy's new position at the summit, or it's Spain and Italy. It's weird, isn't it? This dreadful coronavirus league table, this death toll. Brad Evans on Under the Skin talked about, like every single one of these numbers, these statistics is of course a story, and the, can I say, staticization of a situation makes it somehow more alien to us. We get used to, as with genocides and war, looking at these rapidly increasing tolls and don't recognize that every single one of them is a story, a human story. Have you been getting sort of mad memes and mad rumours as well? People sending memes, some of them are funny, some of them ain't. What about the constant rumours? My brother, my dad's mate works at the MOD, we've got this thing, like, aren't you getting a lot of that stuff? It's a very, very, very interesting time for all of us. So what then can be relied upon in a state of fluctuation when you sense that the powerful, as always, will prioritise the preservation of their systems of dominance above all else? In peacetime, in wartime, in crisis and not crisis, the system's primary concern is the sustenance of its own systems. Perhaps we don't need to be conspiratorial about this. What's my primary concern? The sustenance of my systems. I want to make sure my daughters are good, my missus is good, my dogs are good, my dear cat Morrissey, as he lives his final days fed through a tube, the perfect metaphor of this time, artificially stabilised suppositories, drip fed by me in the dead of night, the echo of the kitten he was living through him. I see and live the impermanence, the meditation of taking care of an animal, and of course the death. What is the death of an animal compared to the death of a human, compared to the death of a system, compared to a spreading pandemic? Nothing, except, everything is in everything. That in the microscopic you can learn to read the patterns and rhythms of life. I know most deeply that my life is no more important or significant than your life. I know it more than ever, that we're the same. I know that people watch this that are like massive stars or super rich billionaires, and I know people that have lived lives that could casually be regarded as unremarkable. But what is more remarkable than a human life? The dramas of our heartbreak, the dramas of our death, and now this sudden shared drama that challenges us to disregard the temporary illusion of separateness and acknowledge the oneness, to recognize that some things may seem permanent, like nations and cities and economic systems, but they are conceptual. They are held together by faith and imagination, no different from monotheism. The common atheistic arguments against conventional orthodox religion can be used as easily to dismantle our faith in the state. And even while galvanized, as to some degree I must say I am, by the rhetoric of politics, I bear my inculcation still and am impressed by hundreds of thousands of people volunteering for the UK National Health Service. It's heartening to see that people care. It's heartening to see that beneath the veneer of our individual lives, all of us trapped in various grades of slavery in service to economic gods, that waiting just for the puncture of this international incident was a great resource of altruism. I read in the brilliant book by Sebastian Junger, Tribe, that in times of crisis, such as the examples he cites and the studies he cites are the Blitz in the UK and post 9/11 in the States, that there can be a kind of a revival of community spirit, and figures suggest that mental health issues and suicide issues drop. Now, I know that I know loads of you lot will be OCD is all hell, and like the washing the hands is going to be crazy. I know loads of you lot will be like socially awkward people that don't like being around other people, or you'll be codependent and need to be around other people. I know there's a kind of glorious dark rainbow of disorders that can be experienced by the sudden arrival of our new normal. And I don't want to be dismissive about any of that. I suppose for me, I want to understand the symphony of true information that is available to us underneath these apparent fluctuations. I want us to recognise that there is something amidst the sadness, amidst the loss, amidst the fear, that if not beautiful, is at least truthful, that there are different ways of organising. How many unfeasible things have just rolled out? Borders closed in Australia between states, trillions invested by the US government in sustaining the economy, sporting institutions that were as normal to me as seeing clouds in the sky, more normal because I don't spend hours staring at clouds, but I spend hours staring at the Premier League and the Champions League, all stripped back. Now, fortunate as I am to live in a relatively rural area, I am aware of birds and animals. And those of you that are living in cities, you will have recourse to nature too. We ain't separate from it, are we? We are nature. We are nature, and this is an opportunity for us, in spite of the fear, to explore our own nature. And I hope them stimulus packages work, and I hope that self-employed people are going to be remunerated. I'm talking to, I'm pretty lucky that my friendships, I've got friends that are famous people and that, but I've got friends that are, tarmackers and lorry drivers and landscapers and office workers, and I'm very, very fortunate in that regard that I'm plugged into what you might call, if not normal, because the people I've listed there are some of the most spectacular people I know, but at least not defined by things that are, do we really need any, what's the value of fame now, really? Do we need it? Do we need celebrity? I'm so glad, man. I'm so glad I've learned these lessons the hard and fast way. We'll go back, the information and evidence suggests that there will be a resumption of, quote, normal life, doesn't it? It suggests that a whole bunch of people are going to die. There's going to be a whole bunch of terrible, terrible economic repercussions, and then normal business will resume. It seems so. We don't know the long-term effects in China. We don't know what will happen when social distancing or physical distancing measures are rescinded. But it seems like this isn't, I heard Rogan talking about this with Duncan Trussell. You want to check that, put that link in there, because Joe Rogan, that guy needs promo. Man, they had an amazing conversation about this being like a dress rehearsal for Armageddon, because this is bad. This is seriously bad, seriously bad. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that, right? But he was talking about, what about if there's a solar flare? What about if there's a volcano? What about earthquakes? Things that take out energy systems. Imagine a virus with a higher mortality rate. These things are going to happen. I don't know, scare you all, but we all knew that, why does every single religion in the world talk about one? Some kind of afterlife, a life that goes beyond the material, individualized perspective of Earth. Of an individual, sorry. And why does the idea of the apocalypse recur? Who knows how many apocalypses we've been through? All history a construct. How would we know, man, how many times we've been round this cycle? How would we know? How would we know if there have been great apocalypses spread across the earth in solar flares, or ice ages, small pods of humans surviving, civilizations coming and going? Civilizations inconceivable to us. We just simply do not know. But this is a deep, deep reminder of impermanence and change. Do you want me to do some live stuff where you can chat to me? I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to do some live stuff on Instagram if you want, and I'm going to do some live stuff here on this channel on YouTube. If you've got questions, stick them in the comments below. They will be harvested. I particularly welcome those of you that strongly disagree with what I say. Like when I talked about anarcho-syndicalism, someone really outlined a strong view against anarcho-syndicalism, the need for centralisation, even though when I talked about anarcho-syndicalism, I said you would need to centralise to a degree law and order, and to some degree bloody medicine, let's face it. You know, I really welcome it. I really welcome intelligent conversation, because it might not need to be a time of radical re-evaluation and the instantiation of new systems, but it could possibly become that if enough of us want it, if enough of us don't want to go back to the old ways. Imagine eco-villages around the world, fully autonomous, fully independent, but in confederacy with one another. Imagine cities stripped of existing forms of government and replaced with true democracy, where you have access to the decision-making processes that affect your lives. Of course, all of us willingly submit to lockdown because this is a time of crisis and fear, and for all we know, that, you know, I mean, I'm not suggesting it's not the best thing to do. All the evidence suggests that's totally what's right, but it is a reminder of how shallow the waters of democracy are. Everyone, get in your fucking house! Okay, that's that. It is the right thing to do. That's not what I'm querying. The necessary requirements of stopping a virus is clearly not my area of expertise. In fact, I claim no area of expertise. But what I will say is that one of the things that's being revealed is that the things we take for granted in terms of the way that power operates and the amount of control we have over our own lives is one of the things that's being revealed is that it's quite I want to say sort of elastic, and really what control do we have? What control do we have? If you enjoyed this video, please watch more of them, comment below, get involved in this conversation, let me know how you'd like me to structure any live videos I do, and let me know what you want me to talk about. Let's get involved in the conversation, you and I. I've learned I've not been listening to you enough. Thank you.